Hello, we're back. It's another Scottish Sun transfer special. Today, all things Rangers, and we do have some big news because there's a new incoming at Ibrox. Also, some movements on the outgoing front to a proper hold-up, so to speak. There's also some interest in a defender from the Netherlands. We'll talk more about that later. But let's jump. Djeidi Gassama. This one's done. What are Rangers getting in Djeidi Gassama?
Well, we hope it's done, Ryan. It's not been officially announced yet as we're doing this on Tuesday morning. We think he's coming. He is a player that was described to me last week as either absolutely brilliant or absolutely rubbish. So you don't seem to get any sort of middle ground with him. He's fast. He will take the fight to the opposition. He's a ball-carrying winger. I think he was Sheffield Wednesday's Player of the Year last season. He will cost about £2.5 million to give up. And it's probably an area of the pitch that Russell Martin has been targeting. He lost Václav Černý at the end of last season back to Wolfsburg, and Matondo's injured, probably wasn't going to feature anyway. Cortez, we're still not sure about. It's a big ask for young Finlay Curtis to carry the fight. So I think Gassama will come in and will come into the team for the Panathinaikos game a week tonight.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that he can play on either of the two wings, and he's played as a number 10 as well. Yeah. When we think of a lot of the Rangers wingers that we mentioned before, like Ryan Kent was almost exclusively on the left. Václav Černý was almost exclusively on the right. It's something that maybe because we've had the Kwame Poku, seems like ages ago now, that fell through. Again, he was, seemed to play more on the right than the left. Some with a bit more versatility might fill a couple of roles as well. And it means that if Rangers don't get, say, like a Raksaki, as we may touch on, that they've got someone that can fill in both places too.
Yeah, listen, versatility is, that's something that Russell Martin would warmly embrace, I'm quite sure, but he just needs to get players in. There is only 7 days to the Panathinaikos game. He said after that Bruges draw at Ibrox 9 days ago that the squad would be unrecognisable in 2 weeks' time. Well, so far, it's only Nasser Dejiga who's come in. We're waiting on the announcement of Gassama. We think it will happen. But he'll want more players in, and he'll want them in quickly, because I really don't think you can be signing players Sunday or Monday of next week in any great number and expect them all to go in against Panathinaikos on Tuesday night. Speaking
of that, players who will not, or Russell Martin will hope, maybe aren't featuring on against Panathinaikos. Robin Proper. Yeah. There's been a hold up here. He's holding out for a bit more cash. Is there any way that he stays? If this one falls through, will there just be another Souter waiting in the wings? Is there any way he stays at Rangers?
There is a chance he will stay at Rangers if the deal can't be done. If any transfer, you need 3 happy parties. You need the seller, the buyer, and you need the player to be happy as well. When Robin Proper came a year ago, some people were celebrating, Rangers have pulled off a miracle. They've got a Champions League defender for £1.5 million. For Robin Proper, this was the biggest deal of his career. He came to Rangers for the money. He had knocked about the Dutch leagues for all of his career, never really playing with the biggest teams. This was what was going to be his money maker. A year later, Rangers have decided they don't want him. He's sitting there, I think, a 2-year deal with an option of a 3rd year. So somebody is going to have to convince Robin Proper that he wants to go back to the Netherlands. And to do that, they might well have to pay him.
If this one does fall through, would you foresee Rangers making an effort to still sell him, or would they settle for someone takes him on loan, for example?
They'll try and get him out the door. They'll try and get several players out the door. There'll be Robin Proper, there'll be Leon King, there'll be Jose Cifuentes, Robbie Matondo once he's fit, perhaps Ridvan Yilmaz. There will be a whole list of players. Kieran Dowell and Ben Davis, you can add to that as well. Guys will want off the wage bill. They'll try now in the middle of July to sell them, but it's a transfer window, I think, it's open to the 1st of September. If they're still in the premises round about then they would accept loan deals just to get them out of the building.
So we touched on some of the outgoings, and the kind of central defence is going to be a lot of moving parts for Rangers. Emmanuel Fernandez, the Peterborough chairman, actually this morning was a little bit in the Scottish Sun where he talks about the fact that a newly promoted Serie A club were ready to come in for him. Talked about his ability and his potential, and he's someone potentially for Rangers fans to get excited about. The first little glimpse that they had of him against Barnsley didn't look too great, but how much patience does there need to be with someone at his age and the stage of his career, and particularly given there may not just be Robin Proper leaving, but also John Souter, as we'll touch on.
Listen, patience is a great virtue, but there's never a lot of patience if players make mistakes in a Champions League qualifier against Panathinaikos. I think it would be a gamble to throw Fernandez in to a game of that significance. Rangers might well sell John Souter. He's only got a year left in his deal. Contract talks, I'm not sure what status they're at, if at any status at all. Trabzonspor want him, maybe others will want him as well. There's been talk of £1.2 million. But even if you sell John Souter in this window, you don't need to sell John Souter now. You know, I might find a situation where Souter and Djeidi play against Panathinaikos next week. We don't know if Russell Martin will go to a 3. It might be Tavernier, Souter and Djeidi. But I think it would be too much of a risk to expose Emmanuel Fernandez to a game of this significance so early in his Rangers career. And it would be unfair on the lad as well.
I mean, you can almost get flashbacks to Leon King, flung in at the deep end in some of those Champions League qualifiers. And you could argue he's maybe actually never recovered, certainly at Ibrox anyway. Maybe I am old-fashioned, but with John Souter going, and in the last few years you've had, obviously, Alan McGregor leave the building, Scott Arfield leave the building. Rangers famous for that sort of Scottish core. I mean, John Souter, for the homegrown player quota would have been important, so they'll certainly, consider that factor. But how important is that? Is it an overstated importance? It's certainly a big, aspect that fans will lean into. Players that have got the Scottish background, they've grown up, knowing what Rangers are about. In the modern day, does it still have that impact? Is it still important?
It's still important to me. When you said you're old-fashioned, I thought you were discussing your trousers for a minute there, Ryan. But
the hand-me-downs for you.
I think it's important that you get Scottish players in. Someone said to me this morning, the money Rangers spent on Tello Asgard and Emmanuel Fernandez could have got them Lennon Miller. So you could have a midfield of Diamande, Raskin and Lennon Miller. All of them are young, all of them are improving, all of them would have a residual sale-on value in this player trading model that everyone bangs on about. So for me, you should be looking at Scottish players. I said in this show at the start of the summer, Rangers should have looked and bolstered the squad with the likes of Lawrence Shankland, Josh Mulligan and Danny Armstrong, and they ignored all 3. They didn't go and get any of them. And I just think, for guys, it didn't cost any money, but like Lyle Cameron, who I think could be a good signing, I think you do need Scots about the place. Rangers are now trying to bed in players from all different countries again, and they've not had a lot of time together, they've not had a lot of football together, they've not had a lot of matches together, the Bruges game notwithstanding. I think it's a big ask to get all these players gelling ahead of such an important game against Panathinaikos.
Yeah. So today's new name on the block, give me a minute.
Good luck with this.
Xavier Mbuyamba and Tite Mukende Mpoye Mbuyamba. If I get that right at any point over the next few weeks, if or when a move materialises, then brilliant.
Imagine all the dads thinking, there's no way my boy's getting that name in the back of his shirt.
No chance. Like the NFL jersey with all those quarterbacks names, way down at the bottom. But anyway, he was once linked to Celtic a couple of years back, playing with Volendam now in the Netherlands. 23 years old, 6'5", he's just won promotion to the Eredivisie. Ironically, we've been talking about one Dutch defender that hasn't really worked out, but he seems to have fit a different profile. Again, it's maybe Rangers shopping in the kind of younger, up-and-coming market, if you like, but also of interest to Ghent. I mean, very early days, but there's been so many of these stories over the years compared to Virgil van Dijk. We don't know much of him. With the numbers they've got at centre-back, though, is this the kind of player that comes in if Proper and Souter leave, or do you see him potentially coming in if only one goes?
Listen, who knows? I mean, last week we stood here and talked about Conor Coady, and now it looks to me as if Conor Coady's maybe going to hang on at Leicester and see who is appointed as a new manager and see if he's got a future at Leicester. It looked as if Rangers were going for experience in that position, and now suddenly it's a 23-year-old who's playing in Volendam and is rated about £500,000. Strikes me profile-wise very similar to Emmanuel Fernandez we spoke about, very similar to Clinton and Ciala, who doesn't look as if he's got a future there either. So the Rangers, if you're looking at problem areas just now for Rangers, I think central defence is number one. And 7 days away from a critical game of football against Panathinaikos, it's a dangerous situation to be in.
Yeah, I think that's actually why, for me in particular, because there's going to be so much change, I think it would be a rash decision to let John Souter go. I think 1.2 million in the grand scheme of things, it's not exactly pocket change, but for the experience, the Scottish factor, and the fact that he's been there, he's going to have a new partner. Go with 2 new partners, potentially 3 new players along that defensive line. It's going to be a lot of change. And speaking about changes to that defensive line, Ridvan Yilmaz came a few years ago, £3.5 million, never really established himself as a first team player. The question now is whether Rangers will be able to get, or how much will they be able to get of that 3.5 million, or if it goes away on loan this season.
It seems as if from 5 minutes after Ridvan arrived, he's been linked with a return to Turkey. I thought he was a wee bit unlucky last season. I wasn't wholly sold on Jefte. I thought there were times Jefte could have been left out of the team and Ridvan could have had a run in his preferred position at left back. Philip Clement didn't seem to go down that line. Yilmaz's best football was at right back. He was in the team, and Tavernier was missing. He played his best games there. It doesn't look to me as if he's got a future there. And you know something, eventually, at some stage, someone at Rangers is going to have to put their hands up to previous recruitment errors. Long before Kevin Thelwell and any of these guys came in, look at the players we're talking about that have been signed and are now trying to offload, proper Yilmaz, Cifuentes, Davis, Dowell, Matondo. Everywhere you turn, there's a highly paid player that they're desperate to ship out the door. These are bad recruitment errors.
What may turn out to be a really sort of shrewd investment by that previous regime, Hamza Egaman. But there is still this sort of hold-off between whatever Lille are prepared to pay and whatever Rangers are willing to accept. We need to remember as well, Lille do have Olivier Giroud on the books. Yeah. Do you see Hamza Egaman leaving Rangers this window period? Do you see him leaving for less or more than £15 million?
I certainly don't see him moving for more than £15 million. Russell Martin, when he spoke at the end of the week, said that there had been no contact from Lille to Rangers. So we don't know whether Lille's interest is going to get to the stage where they make a bid. We don't know what level that bid is going to be. If you were Lille, you would come in low and just see what Rangers think of the whole situation. You certainly wouldn't be going anywhere near £15 million just now. I think if Rangers were offered £10 million tomorrow for Egaman, they would be daft not to take it, because he's a player they got for a tenth of that, and it was a player who, at the end of the season, wasn't getting regularly into the team ahead of Cyril Dessert.
Okay, well there you go. We'll have a Celtic transfer update on Friday. That's all the news for Rangers so far. I've been Ryan Rowe, he's been Roger Hanna, and in the meantime, stay on our YouTube channel. There's a great Cult Heroes with Alan Mahood, and also you'll also have some stuff from Mixu Paatelainen to watch out for soon as well. In the meantime, scottishsun.co.uk/sport for all the latest news.